We're live, Hans.
We have not talked about it in the past months, but let's do it! Corona.
Fucking Corona.
My Corona.
So we were talking this morning. You know, maybe I'll share the story of my father who has Parkinson's. And my family just had a reunion back in the States. And I did not go back in part because going through the airports and all that, you know, if you have Parkinson's, you're more vulnerable to getting something like Corona because your lungs and your breathing is more affected. And it's one of the underlying conditions you could have that could make it be bad. But anyway, they had a family reunion, and then my sisters left, were driving away, and my stepmother called, and she said she was upset. She was freaking out because she said, you know, your dad doesn't recognize me, you know. Like he had a bout of I don't know what it was, dementia or whatever, but he didn't recognize her, and she was really upset. And so my two sisters drove 4 hours back. They went back for my dad, and they helped him pack up his stuff, and then they're gonna go live near one of my sisters. But my guess is that he's just spent this time with family, and now he's headed back to live in the same place on lockdown. You know, my dad's already really downgraded his life recently. He for a long time has lived on his own ranch with horses and, you know, out in the beautiful countryside, and I think they were living in an apartment. Now I can't remember my dad ever living in an apartment, but so they've been in this apartment on lockdown. You know, they used to do service on a really regular basis with the church, but that was closed down. They used to go to church, that was closed down. My dad used to work as a dentist. He just recently retired, so there was no working. He no longer has his ranch to work on or his horses, and they're just sitting inside the apartment for day after day after day, and for weeks and months. And they have no TV. They got no internet. Their only contact with the outside world was an occasional trip wearing masks and everything to the grocery store, and phone calls. A few phone calls from family.
I mean, and you could call this...
So my guess is that he's imagining going back to this prison cell of a lockdown life, not knowing, is it going to be another year before I see my kids again, or am I going to die this way? You know? And I imagine that partly it's mental, like he wants to forget. He wants to not look at the reality that's there. I have to wonder if that's not a factor in things like Alzheimer's and things like this.
Well, you could say it's anecdotal, you know, but or the body knows, you know, the body knows, because you could say it's anecdotal, but there's studies for this, you know. They did a 75-year-long study in Harvard, try to determine the predictors of happiness and health. Happiness and health. And number one, by far more important than anything else, was quality relationships. So more important than what you eat, than your fitness, more important than your genes, more important, whatever, you know. Number one for happiness and health is quality relationships. So you can see happiness, yeah, I can see that relationships make me, but it is also for, if you want to live longer, if you want to live better, you know, quality relationships. And that means the relationship with your spouse, with your family, with your colleagues, with whatever, you know. And so it is so important, you know, and part of quality relationship is that contact, you know. My parents also are in lockdown, and they've been like hesitant to give even hugs to their children, you know. And I'm like, what the fuck, you know? Like, even if you believe in the virus and that it's a big thing, you know, then the number one thing you can do against it is raise your immunity, you know. And the number one thing and part of raising your immunity is that you're happy, that you're fulfilled. Hugs must be 100% part of that, you know? And so instead of raising your immunity by giving love, being loved, you know, they go into lockdown, lock themselves up, you know? This can be good. Yes. It cannot be good, you know? And it's just, oh man, it pisses me off because, like, again, this is anecdotal, but the only real stories I know about COVID and deaths and the threat of being dead are people who are fallen to the lockdown measures. You know, my friend, his father went to the hospital in Belgium because he has an issue with his lungs, not corona related. You know, 2 years ago they did an intervention and they saved him. Now he goes to the hospital. There were no doctors because people are afraid to go to the hospital now. So the doctors are not there, and the whole corona thing, there was nobody. And the doctors that usually do the intervention were not there. They rushed him to a nursing home and he died on the way there. It's incredible to me, you know. And again, it's anecdotal, but...
Well, a lot of the, you know, there was all this talk about the hospitals becoming overwhelmed in the States, and for the most part, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. There's hospitals closing down because no one's going for their optional treatments and surgeries and this sort of a thing. And I mean, their hospitals were really overwhelmed in during the really cold months in Europe, in places that had really bad pollution to begin with, which amplifies the problems with breathing and pneumonia and all this sort of thing.
I mean, you can go into the defense of like, you can go pro or against the severity of the virus. I have strong ideas about it, like how the lethality, the mortality of it. You know, there's scientific pieces that defend both for and against. And for lockdown measures, there's enough scientific evidence that says yes, it's a good thing, and no, it's a really bad thing. So there's scientific proof for anything. But what I see when I talk to people about these things, it seems to me like the proponents of lockdown measures are really driven by a fear of death. Like, fuck, like death is in our face, you know, and death, we can't accept it. It's like, and so we want to avoid death, and we want to extend, or we want to add years to life. You know, people are dying, we want to do something. When I see proponents of people who are against the lockdown measures, you know, are way more, when I talk to them, there are way more people who say, love life, want to add quality to life, you know. If I wrote about it, if I, in these 4 months, I'm in lockdown and it's been very hard to meet people. Yeah, it's very hard to be social, you know, to talk to people, to, you can't, so it's distancing, social distancing, and I'm not allowed to travel. These two things alone, they make up a huge part of the quality of my life. A huge part of the quality. So the measures are in place, the quality of my life is going down. I'm against it.
But Hans, you could imagine you could live to 150 and all you have to do is be on lockdown all the time wearing a mask.
Great. Would you rather be exactly, you know, if that is the thing, I don't want to live to 150, I want to live to 75 and live a dog's life, you know. I want to, it's amazing to me, man. And you can't do much, you know, and people judge you. Yeah, wear your mask. Yeah. I can't see you. I can't talk to you. You know, I used to think it's the eyes, you know. The eyes are the windows of the soul, but the mouth, there's something there. Because people have the mask now, and I'm like, what are they thinking? What are they? Makes me mad, man. Makes me mad.
Yeah, it's, I think that these days in this modern world, most people are thinking more in terms of safety and extending life rather than being fully alive.
You know what I also think in all that? I sometimes think the viruses come, they're facing with death, and they're thinking, what the fuck? I haven't lived at all. I need more years. I need more years to do something valuable, or to live a life fully lived, you know? So there's a guilt and like, fuck, I haven't done anything with my life. Give me more years. Something like that, I think, is going on when we say we want to extend life at all cost.
I'm doubtful about that. I'm doubtful that many people are thinking like that. I imagine that more there's just fear and compliance, you know? and and a fear of thinking for yourself, you know. And then there's a large number of people who have the mentality of, if we all do it, it'll be a good thing for everyone, so everyone should do it. It's the moral thing to do. It's
Yes.
the right thing to do for all of us. And yeah.
That's the discussion I had with Leo here in the island. Huh? Yeah, if we just all do it, you know, it'll be over in a couple of weeks. Oh, it's not. Oh, we do it just a little bit more. Oh, we give up a little bit more quality of life.
There's all kinds of negative ramifications of this that are not so visible.
Yes.
The thing that's really visible is, oh, people are dying and they're on ventilators.
Exactly.
There's, you know, I mean, in Africa, it's millions. They said millions are going to die from diseases like malaria, and what was the other one? Another big killer out there, because of the lockdowns, people are not going and doing the work they need to do to prevent these other diseases. And then there's also there's huge swarms of locusts out there in East Africa right now, just destroying crops by watch some videos on it. But like with lockdown, no one's out there doing what they need to do to solve this problem. There's going to be so many deaths because of lockdowns.
There's enough scientific evidence of this. Yeah, like it's not just projection. You know, the suicide rate is an all-time high in the States. The domestic violence rates are an all-time high. So it's there. It's not like, oh, maybe. No, it's there. People are killing themselves. You know, you can count them. It's just
many more unforetold consequences.
So it's not like, don't go into an argument of like what's more scientifically, what is it right or you can defend them both. Now look at it from a different angle, you know, like what is it that you want? If you know that, you know, there's advantages and disadvantages to both, you know, what is it that you want? And you can look at a different angle and say, man, do you want to live by fear? Like most people that, no, we gotta fear. Or do you want to live by like love for life and I want quality, and yes, I'm taking a risk, and you know, oh man, it's finally we got it out after 4 months of
pretty worked up about this.
Yeah, fucking A. I was gonna organize a party, you know.
This is all about that party.
This is about the party. Nobody comes because I invite girls and
let's get to the core of the issue.
Yeah. It is that.
Haven't seen a girl in months.
Why are you like this about it? As if it's not important. But that's the same thing my friend Leo said. Oh, I can do 4 months without women. No, you can't. You know, your body will punish you. You know. And I said, there's a party, and she says, what? You do a party with Corona? And I say, yeah, Corona beer, wine, whiskey. Man, it pisses me off that like. They're afraid, and so they won't give hugs. They're afraid.
If someone out there listening, please, Hans needs to get laid. Please. He really, really, really needs to get laid.
Oh man, I was going to make a mama joke now.
Don't make jokes about your mama. Okay?
But for sure, you know, this is not measurable, but for sure, if you know, like you know that there's a scientific study that says, the number one determinant of predictor of health is quality relationships. Then you know that lockdown will have detrimental consequences on your society.
My father and they were deciding, should we even do the family reunion because of the risk of the corona, you know?
Yes.
And what kind of life are they living? I mean, it was total misery. Both of their health and their minds were going downhill fast, you know? And you're worried about living a little longer, you know? And not seeing your kids and your grandkids, and it's
even if there are positive things that come from the lockdown. I thought it's a great period. It's been great, you know. And but even if you're thinking about like, oh, the virus and you're afraid of it, you know, the number one thing should be your immunity. The number one thing should be immunity, and part of raising your immunity is love, you know, is hugs.
And it's also going out and being exposed to the elements.
Yeah,
you know.
So yeah, is there any women out there and they're in Florianopolis, Brazil, and they say, fuck you against the lockdown measures, you know, I'm with me, and you need a hug, I'm here, okay? I give hugs without masks. Without...
If you need more than a hug.
What do you mean, breakfast? Oh,
yes.
man.
Yes, breakfast. Well,
wouldn't that be great?
They've now closed down the cafes, the restaurant, the mall. You know, I've really been enjoying the last month going out and sitting in the sun, drinking a coffee and being around people. And
an outdoor mall, they're closing it down. You got to go in your house where there's less movement of the air. You know, we can catch the virus a lot easier. You know, so a real explicit. Imagine this: a real explicit message for women out there who don't believe in the lockdown and who need hugs and who are in Brazil, Florianopolis. Contact me. I'm going to Europe in the next month. So if you're in Lisbon, if you're in Malaga, or if you're in Belgium and you don't believe in lockdown measures, you need a hug from me, contact me.
What is this, your dating channel?
Woohoo!
Yes.
All right.
If you're as desperate as this guy, contact him.
You laugh with that, but it's true. This is not good for my health. It is like, you know, lockdown is like you eating.
Hans is dying, okay? This is a humanitarian cause. Hans is dying.
He's still laughing with it, but you know, this is
save his life.
Me not getting hugs is as bad as you eating your salami and cheese every day. It's bad for your health.
I thought you were gonna say like you need it. It's about being alive, like
yes.
Like getting hugs.
It is totally.
Yes.
It's enough. All right, 4 months. It's enough. Fuck that shit. All right.
So wait a second. We got time. Let's talk about it some more.
What time is it?
8:35.
Okay. We got 10 more minutes to sound desperate.
So what about all those people out there who are, Hans, you're putting other lives at stake. You're putting other lives at stake. How dare you?
A man who chooses for his own aliveness chooses the aliveness of all his people. The world is going to be much better if I'm in good health.
I think a similar thing about, like, I go to some of these schools in Africa, and some of these classes, you see the kids in school, and it's not just Africa, it's many places around the world, and many places in America as well, and the kids are bored to death, being trained to learn something they have no interest in, and the idea is, well, they should be in school, they should learn what we tell them to learn. It's like, the main thing that's being communicated is something that is so anti-life and anti-aliveness. And it's just like, to me, it's just like, it's insanity.
Yes.
This is just more of the same. The lockdowns, it's more of the same mentality. You know, it's like fear-driven and training to do what the masses do and what authorities tell you, you know. Authorities tell you this will be wrong and this is what you should fear, and so you're like hypnotized into just obedience and conformity.
Surviving instead of aliveness, you know. Nobody thinks, what? Aliveness? Yeah, aliveness, like feeling great, you know, feeling alive. Nobody's talking about that. Talking about surviving, adding some couple of more years.
Yeah.
Extending our already miserable fucking lives.
The things that we tolerate, the things that we go along with. We in many ways live as slaves.
For sure.
And this is a great time, a great way to look at our lives, how we're living, and the reasons we have for making the choices that we're making. This could be a metaphor, like how many other ways is your life on lockdown? You know, how many other ways are you wearing masks in your life? Separate, social distancing from people. You know, it's a great metaphor. How easily you go along with this can be like how easily you're already doing it. You're already doing social distancing. You're already wearing masks. You're already on lockdown.
How much longer in your life, how much longer are you going to put your life on hold? Are you going to say, I'm just going to put it on hold for the next, fucking 30 years? I'm just going to study, and then, I'm just going to work, and then, I'm just going to have it. And when I'm retired, then I can enjoy it, This is what it is. Your life is on lockdown for 60 fucking years. And then 2 weeks into retirement, you die of cancer.
Well, at least you lived to 65 then, Hans.
No, 2 weeks. You're 60 and then 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I know so many stories.
But you made it to 65.
Yeah. Fuck that.
Yes. It's a similar thing, so many people sacrificing for heaven, to live all of eternity in heaven. And
wow, this is great, these metaphors.
Imagine heaven never comes, It's like retirement. I'll sacrifice everything for retirement one day. Jeez. And then you're praying that you still have your health, your aliveness, your life force.
My pension.
Or that you're alive itself, or that you have any money left.
I love this. Like this is really like, lockdown is like, how long are you gonna let yourself, how long are you gonna let others put your life on hold? How much longer? Masks. How long are you gonna let people decide that you can't express yourself? How much longer?
How many of us are already locked down, wearing masks, hiding our true self,
yes,
and social distancing by the way that we live our life?
Just do it a little bit more.
How many of us already have the virus that's killing our aliveness on the inside, that's killing our soul? The virus of compromise, rationalizing, not facing reality.